I thought, well, Jamie Oliver must have said something about us, or, a really influential person, because it was just, I couldn't believe that just that announcement can have that impact. Hi, I'm Helen Burgess. I'm the founder of Little Cooks Co., which is a healthy cooking subscription for children. I set up Little Cooks Co. 4 years ago now in my front room, just on my tot, with a heat sealer and a load of ingredients and a small run of boxes. I'd previously worked in government and knew that after having my son, my passion was in nutrition, and I was so determined to try and have a positive influence on children's health and well-being, and food is such an enormous part of growth and development and how we feel. So I retrained for 3 years in nutrition and came up with the idea for Little Cooks Co. in my final year, and just gave it a punt, didn't have business experience. It was brilliant and scary and exciting, but I managed to get it to a stage where it was a really attractive investment proposition. And really sort of from then, which was in 2019, I've been able to get some staff to help, which is wonderful, and spend on marketing and just really, really scale the business up, which has, been fantastic. It was wild. It will definitely go down as a year for everyone, everyone too, but gosh, it was overnight. As soon as they announced that schools were shutting, overnight, it was just crazy. I thought, well, Jamie Oliver must have said something about us, or, a really influential person, because it was just, I couldn't believe that just that announcement can have that impact. And, the first few days, it's like, what? We obviously went through a process of deciding, do we actually just stop orders because we have to fulfill for our current customers and the orders that we'd taken? And there was a real supply issue, obviously, because we're primarily, in baking goods, and albeit healthy. So it was, we used things more like buckwheat and chia seeds and those sorts of things. But even they were just really difficult to come by. So that was really challenging. We all work remotely anyway, so that in terms of the way we work, that didn't change. So we sort of, I suppose, in a way had an advantage in that we were used to Zoom, we were used to working from home, not used to working from home with kids, which we all have, which was very difficult to try and manage this immediate increase, that we'd never experienced before. Trying to manage that and trying to fulfill it was crazy, but we did it, which is wonderful. And I really put that down to the fact that we invested so much, and we do invest so much in our relationships with everyone, with our customers, with our colleagues, but with our suppliers. And our main provider of our organic ingredients called us up after a few weeks and said, look, we're having to stop our trade orders with everyone, but we're going to keep you because we really, we love working with you. And I think because we'd invested so much in that positive relationship, and that just took so much stress and pressure off. And then equally our fulfillment center, who is just the most wonderful group of people, were like, whatever it takes, we're going to do this. They managed to get extra temporary staff in at short notice, and they scaled up from, I think we had sort of 5 dedicated people fulfilling our boxes, and it sort of went up to 12 or 13 within a couple of weeks. But they were like, there's just no chance this isn't going to happen. We just are going to prioritize this. So yeah, it was very, very challenging, but the kind of learning from it is that it really pays to be nice, and to do business in a way where you have good values and you treat people with respect. And I suppose one of my fears starting off is that you have to be brutal to be in business. And I'm not prepared to do that. So does that mean that my business will fail because I'm not going to conduct myself like that or have those values in the business? And it's just so wonderful to know you don't have to be brutal to have a successful business. And actually it benefits you if you're not, because people trust you and they invest in you. So yeah, a wild time. Back from when I was working in government, I had a very privileged job where I was working right in the centre in Cabinet Office number 10, and I had access to all of government's work and what was going on. And I was always just drawn to what's going on in kids' health, kids' education. The obesity strategy was starting to be talked about. I could see all these statistics about, this epidemic in type 2 diabetes in children, in tooth decay, mental health, screen addiction, obesity, and what that means in the long term. It's very hard if a child starts off life suffering with obesity, with pressure on their systems, to then go into adulthood without some of that causing problems later on. Those things are very scary, and they're not, they aren't the things that are going to motivate people to make behavior change or to engage. And actually, it's something that you need to be positive and being part of a practical solution. That also for us, knowing that for parents, we're time poor and often stressed, and it's hard to find the time and inspiration to think, what fun things can I do with my kids that are going to be those memory making opportunities. And cooking with kids is just the most wonderful way of doing it, because you're not sat across a table eyeballing each other, how's your day at school? It's so much more collaborative. And so we wanted to kind of combine it of food is just so powerful, and teaching children how to feed themselves, which it's as important as being able to clothe yourself. You've got food is our fuel. So there's scary research about it was a few years ago now, but young adults going off to university, and not only a third of them knew how to boil an egg. They are going to be dependent on fast food, takeaways, ready meals. Empowering children with the skills of knowing how to cook, teaching them how to do it with real nutritious ingredients. So we don't include anything refined in our recipes. We try and use the most nutrient dense ingredients, but also it's easy to engage kids in a baking process, because generally that's the initial way into the kitchen for a lot of children. Making it easy at the same time as teaching them, so they get this early understanding that what they eat and their bodies and how they feel are linked, but in such a fun, empowering way. So, the kits do have all of those benefits. So it's the time that parents can spend together with their kids that's, stress-free. They've got what they need. They don't get to a recipe and think, oh God, I just need that one bag of flour and I don't have it. It's all pre-packaged. It's also all compostable. And, we're very... have strong values about the environment, and equally all the ingredients are organic, and that's partly environmental but also health related, and empowering children. We have some wonderful recipe developers who we work with, who come up with really cool ideas and new ways of combining ingredients and putting things together. We also ask our customers. So we have regular feedback surveys, but we also ask for their views. We're obviously a digital business, we're e-commerce, but we're trying to help parents find ways of of helping children not be digital. Like, this is about going back to basics and, just having quality time with no screens and distractions in the way. We always include lots of extra fun in our kits, like growing their own seeds. So we'll give them, tomato seeds or whatever, and then in a future kit, we'll show them how they can harvest them and use them in recipes. So they get outside and they get their hands dirty in soil, and we'll teach them about the ecosystem. And so it's very much an antidote to the kind of craziness of screen time, which has got even worse in the last year. Cooking has exploded during lockdown. It sort of started off with the sourdough craze, but that everyone has cooked more. And children have got so much more involved. So it's kind of, that's the challenge of saying, it's how do we continue the benefits that have come out of lockdown and not just go back to the busyness and that's part of that's part of our sort of marketing strategy, really, I suppose, to be thinking about encouraging people to keep doing the bits of the last year that really have been beneficial, which, cooking and spending that quality time together, eating together as a family is obviously increased massively because parents were at home, and that, as people go back into offices or whatever, children have after school clubs and, life's busy again, of course that's going to reduce, but it's kind of helping people understand why it's so beneficial and having, time in the week when that's really dedicated time to having the family meals together. And it's a strange time now, because it's like we had the world before COVID, and now we had COVID, now we've come out of it, and it's not the world before. It's completely different. And I think it's interesting to see how consumer behaviours and behavioural trends are changing, and how they will settle in this next sort of era, I suppose. Nutrition is so complex and so contentious. There's so many different narratives, different diets, different opinions, but actually I was so surprised at how complex it was over the 3 years that I studied it. But it boils down to me to some very simple principles, which is cut out the processed and the junk, and as much as you can. We're very much understanding of like real life, and that's not possible to expect like no child to go to a birthday party and not eat cake or whatever, but reduce as much as possible processed and refined foods, and eat as much real food. If you're buying something that's pre-made, then looking at the number of ingredients, and the more there are, the less likely it's going to be good for you. And we want to try and teach children that skill as well, of like interrogate it, because a lot of people have health claims on their products that actually aren't necessarily that true. Some of these high sugar cereals, which have very cute, fun advertising targeted at children, and will say high fiber or something, but you look and you see actually the amount of added sugars and the not good ingredients, the not nourishing ingredients, the ingredients that aren't going to deliver nutrients to that child as they start the day. It would be easy for a parent, for a child to think, oh well, that's a good option, it looks fun and it says it's high fiber, but actually it's not a great way to start the day. It will give them energy slumps and blood glucose spikes, and that the mornings in school are often when children have the most hardcore learning. They'll put the kind of more intense subjects in the morning, so starting the day with a crappy breakfast is not going to help kids at all. My granny used to go off to the greengrocers. They didn't have a fridge when she was younger. They go to the greengrocers every day to buy the food that they were going to eat. for that day. And it was organic because there were no pesticides, that are now damaging the soil to such an extent that actually the soil itself is nutrient deficient. So, the plants get their nutrients from the soil. And as we overfarm the soil and we put all these toxic chemicals into the soil, it's reducing even the nutrients within, apples and tomatoes and, just regular food, which again is like, there has to be a real revolution with the food system to sort this out, which there are lots of cool people, really fighting that cause. And I really hope that, they make progress with the government. It's not obviously not just UK, it's worse in the US, but I could talk all day about that sort of thing. I think Jamie Oliver is a hero, He uses his success, his influence, his power to try and lobby government for the sake of our children's futures. I just love him for that. He's obviously he became well known for it through his work that he did on school dinners, which is wonderful that he did that, and really shone a light on how awful this food is. I have a similar issue with hospital food, which I know Prue Leith was running some work on to try and improve, because they're places of health. You want people to get better in them, but yet patients are given just it's not food, it's fake food, a lot of the time, and it's so processed, and you think, but it just doesn't make sense. The same with schools. This is a place of learning and growth and development. You've got to fuel kids in a way that's going to enable them to achieve those things. So I love Jamie and would love to meet him one day. And I also love Dr. Chatterjee, who is a GP, but, really into the sort of lifestyle medicine, really, where he is sort of threw his hands up and said, all this sort of epidemic and chronic diseases that we're seeing. So, we have a lot more obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and these are lifestyle driven problems in the main. And actually the solution is not a pill. The solution is not medicine. It's looking at how are we living? How are we sleeping? How are we eating? How are we managing our stress? How are we connecting with, people and our loved ones? And he's becoming so influential, and that influence, I think, is so positive. And I just think he's absolutely wonderful. We are looking into savoury kits now, which is really exciting. It's something that we get asked about a lot. It's kind of been on the roadmap for a while, but we're really looking into that now in quite some detail. So that's really exciting. So in the next few months, hopefully, we'll be soft launching that. And then we've got a cookbook for children that's launching in a couple of weeks, which is just lovely. And it's for children. It's full of activities and learning and lovely recipes that they can make at home, which are all obviously just real ingredients, real food, teaching them about why it's important to eat a rainbow, teaching them about the soil and, why it's important to try and choose foods that haven't been heavily processed. So yeah, I'm really excited about that.